Jenna hurried up the stairs to Priya's apartment, her weekend bag bouncing against her hip. After an exhausting week of back-to-back meetings and endless deadlines, she couldn't wait to collapse on her best friend's couch, binge-watch cheesy rom-coms, and drown her stress in greasy takeout. It was their tradition, comfort, laughter, and pure, uncomplicated friendship. Priya had texted her the day before, insisting Jenna come over for the weekend. But when Jenna knocked on the door and got no answer, she frowned. She tried the handle and found it unlocked. Weird. Priya. It's me, Jenna called as she stepped inside. The apartment was quiet, save for the faint hum of the fridge and the soft rustle of curtains swaying in the breeze. She dropped her bag by the door and headed toward the living room. Her steps faltered. There, sprawled out on the couch with a blanket half draped over him, was a man she had never seen before. His hair was dark and tousled, cheek resting against a pillow as he slept soundly. His face held a calmness she found oddly captivating. For a moment, Jenna just stared, her brain struggling to piece together why a stranger was comfortably napping in her best friend's apartment. Hello, she ventured, her voice slicing through the quiet. The man stirred, eyes blinking open, and for a split second, he looked utterly disoriented. Then his gaze locked onto her, and he quickly sat up, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Oh, hey. You must be Jenna. His voice was thick with sleep, yet somehow smooth. Yes, and you are? She asked, folding her arms defensively. Before the man could answer, Priya emerged from the kitchen, holding 2 steaming mugs of coffee. Her eyes widened in surprise, then quickly shifted to embarrassment. Jenna, you're early. Priya's tone was too cheerful, the kind that tried to hide panic. I texted you like 5 times, Jenna replied, her gaze flicking suspiciously between her friend and the stranger now sitting awkwardly on the couch. And who exactly is this? Priya's cheeks flushed. Right. This is Ethan. My boyfriend. Boyfriend. Jenna's eyes narrowed in disbelief. Priya hadn't mentioned anything about having a boyfriend, let alone one who seemed comfortable enough to crash at her place. This was her best friend, the one who always told her everything. Yet somehow, Jenna was completely out of the loop. Nice to meet you, Ethan said, offering a hesitant smile that did nothing to ease Jenna's suspicion. Yeah, nice to meet you, too, Jenna replied, though her tone was more bewildered than polite. Priya laughed nervously. Why don't you sit down? I'll get you some coffee, and we can catch up. Jenna nodded slowly, still processing this unexpected revelation. She had come here for comfort and familiarity. But now, she wasn't so sure what she had just walked into. Jenna tried to swallow her surprise as she settled onto the armchair across from Ethan. Priya handed her a mug of coffee, her fingers trembling slightly as she placed it on the table. The silence between them was like a rubber band stretched too tight, ready to snap. So, boyfriend, huh? Jenna's attempt at a playful tone fell flat, her words laced with poorly disguised confusion. Priya offered a sheepish smile, her eyes flickering to Ethan before returning to Jenna. Yeah, it's still pretty new. I was going to tell you, I swear. Things just happened so fast. How fast? Jenna pressed, her curiosity outweighing her politeness. A couple of months. Priya hesitated, searching Jenna's face for judgment. It's been good. Really good. Jenna's gaze shifted to Ethan, who looked increasingly uncomfortable, his hands clasped around his own coffee mug like it was a lifeline. And you just live here now? Ethan laughed, a low, rumbling sound that somehow softened the tension. Not quite. I just crash here sometimes when we hang out late. Didn't mean to surprise you, though. Priya talks about you all the time. She does, huh? Jenna's eyebrows lifted, finally allowing herself to smile a little. All good things, I promise, Ethan replied, his expression genuine. And that was the problem. He seemed nice. Nice enough to make Jenna feel guilty for the defensiveness simmering beneath her politeness. They fell into small talk, and much to Jenna's frustration, Ethan was charming. He had a relaxed humor that blended perfectly with Priya's cheerful energy. They bantered effortlessly, finishing each other's sentences like they'd been doing it for years. And yet, there was something off, something Jenna couldn't quite place. Ethan had a way of looking at her, brief glances that lingered a second too long, as if trying to read her thoughts. It made her pulse quicken in a way she couldn't explain. And as they shared stories and laughter over coffee, Jenna felt the tension between them slowly dissolving, replaced by a different kind of unease. "So, Jenna," Ethan said, leaning forward, his eyes glinting with curiosity. "Priya told me you're some sort of genius in marketing. Sounds intense." She chuckled, feeling her shoulders relax for the first time since she walked through the door. "Intense is an understatement. But I like it. Keeps me on my toes." "Sounds like you've got your life together," Ethan said, his gaze steady. "That's impressive." "Trust me, I'm a mess half the time," Jenna admitted, feeling a surprising urge to be honest with him. "But I guess everyone's a little messy, right?" Ethan's smile was slow, thoughtful. "Yeah, some of the best things are." The words hung in the air, their weight undeniable. Jenna looked away, her stomach fluttering with a sensation she couldn't quite name. And for the first time, she wondered if coming here this weekend had been a terrible mistake. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and indigo. Priya had retreated to her room hours ago, worn out from an especially long week at work. But Jenna couldn't sleep. Not with Ethan still awake, his presence lingering in the small apartment like an unanswered question. She found him on the balcony, leaning against the railing with a glass of something amber in his hand. His gaze was lost in the city lights, but when she stepped outside, he glanced over, his expression unreadable. "Couldn't sleep either?" Ethan asked, his voice low and inviting. "Something like that." Jenna crossed her arms, the cool night air prickling her skin. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all." He gestured to the empty spot beside him, and she stepped forward, bracing her hands against the railing. The silence between them was thick, but not entirely uncomfortable. Just charged. "You and Priya seem good together," Jenna said carefully, trying to convince herself more than anything. "She's really happy." Ethan's lips twitched into a sad smile. "She deserves to be happy." "Why did you say it like that?" Jenna's eyes narrowed, suspicion creeping into her chest. He hesitated, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. "Because I'm not sure if I'm the one making her happy, or if she's just trying to convince herself I am." The confession felt heavy, pressing down on the air between them. Jenna's heartbeat quickened, her pulse thrumming in her ears. "Does she know you feel that way?" she asked. "I haven't had the guts to say it out loud until now." Ethan's eyes met hers, their intensity both disarming and thrilling. "But I think she senses it. I care about Priya. She's amazing. But something's been off from the start, and I can't ignore it anymore." Jenna wanted to be angry with him, to accuse him of leading Priya on. But his honesty was so raw, so unfiltered, that her resentment tangled with something else. Sympathy, understanding, and maybe even attraction. Then why are you still with her? The question slipped out before she could catch it. Ethan exhaled, his gaze dropping to the glass in his hand. "Because I was trying to convince myself, too, that if I just kept trying, the feelings would catch up. But meeting you." The words hung between them, a confession neither of them seemed ready for. Jenna's breath hitched, her pulse hammering against her ribs. "Meeting me what?" she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. Ethan looked at her, his expression agonizingly sincere. "Meeting you made me realize what real connection feels like. And I can't pretend I don't feel it anymore." Jenna's mind spun, torn between disbelief and something far more dangerous, hope. The days that followed were a blur of tangled emotions. Jenna couldn't shake the memory of Ethan's words, his voice thick with vulnerability. She tried to ignore it, burying herself in conversations with Priya and pretending everything was fine. But the truth kept clawing its way back to the surface, demanding to be acknowledged. It wasn't until their last night together that Jenna finally broke. She sat beside Priya on the couch, both of them wrapped in cozy blankets, a movie playing unwatched on the screen. Guilt twisted in Jenna's stomach, her fingers fidgeting restlessly. "I need to tell you something," Jenna began, her voice tight. Priya glanced over, her smile fading at the seriousness in Jenna's tone. "What's wrong?" Jenna drew a shaky breath. It's about Ethan. He told me something the other night. Something I can't keep from you. Priya's eyes darkened, her body stiffening. What did he say? He told me he cares about you, but he's been trying to force a connection that doesn't feel real. And, Jenna swallowed, her throat burning. And he said he feels something with me. Something he can't ignore. Priya's expression crumbled, pain flickering in her gaze. But to Jenna's shock, it was followed by a sad, understanding smile. I already knew, Priya admitted, her voice breaking but steady. Or at least, I had a feeling. Things with Ethan have been strained for a while. We tried so hard to make it work, but I guess deep down, I knew he wasn't mine to keep. Jenna's eyes widened, tears stinging her vision. Priya, I'm so sorry. I never wanted this to happen. I would never. I know, Priya interrupted gently. And honestly, I think it's better this way. Maybe I've been holding on to something I shouldn't have. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of honesty both crushing and liberating. Finally, Priya reached over and squeezed Jenna's hand. You deserve to be happy, Jenna. And if that happiness is with Ethan, then I can't stand in the way. Jenna's chest tightened, her affection for her friend overpowering everything else. I never wanted to hurt you. You're my best friend. And you're mine, Priya replied with a sad but genuine smile. Sometimes, love is messy. And sometimes, letting go is the only way to find something real. In the weeks that followed, Ethan and Priya ended their relationship with quiet acceptance. It was painful but necessary, a bittersweet parting that held more kindness than resentment. When Ethan reached out to Jenna afterward, his words were careful, his intentions clear. They took things slowly, their conversations filled with the same warmth and understanding that had drawn them together in the first place. But this time, there were no secrets. No guilt. Only the hope of something real. And as Jenna looked into Ethan's eyes, she finally allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was where she was meant to be.